Hi guys, welcome back to another e-learning video. This video will be over another transformation, and this one's going to be focused on f of x and then plus k inside the parentheses. So you're going to add a constant, but you're going to do it inside the parentheses. Last time we focused on f of x and then plus k outside the parentheses, and we learned that if k is a positive, it shifts it up, and if k is a negative, it shifts it down. This time it's going to be f of x plus k, and the plus k is going to be inside the parentheses. And we're going to see what happens with that, what kind of transformation occurs. So on the screen, you're going to see that I have the graph of f of x equals x squared. So essentially y equals x squared if you're focusing on rather having y here, because it just makes more sense to you. F of x, remember, replaces y, so we have y equals x squared, or f of x equals x squared. The f of x just indicates to us that this is a function. So we have x squared being graphed here, and we're going to see how it shifts based on a transformation where you do plus k inside the parentheses. So let's say k is a 2. Now what happened there? What happened if k was a 2? It looks like it shifted it 2 to the left. So that's interesting. Let's see what happens when it's a 4. It shifts it 4 to the left. Okay, so it looks to me, and this is the conclusion you should draw, that when it's plus a number, it's going to move left. Oddly enough, it actually does the opposite of what you would think it would do. So when you have x plus 4, that plus 4 inside the parentheses indicates that you need to shift your graph 4 to the left. You actually need to shift it in the opposite direction. So it made sense when it was f of x and then plus k outside the parentheses. When it was plus k outside, if it was positive, it went up, and negative, it went down. But moving left to right, it seems that when it's plus a positive inside the parentheses, you're shifting it left. It's actually the opposite direction of what you would think. You shift it left when it's a plus positive. Now let's look at shifting the negative. Let's say that in the inside of this parentheses here that I'm pointing at, let's say that this k is a negative 3. Let's say that it's x minus 3. That actually moves it to the right. So that's what you need to take out of this. You need to think about and make a note of, if it's f of x plus k inside the parentheses, the value of k, if it's positive, shifts it left, and if the value of k is negative, it shifts it right. It's actually the opposite direction of what you would think. So previously we talked about if it was f of x and then plus k outside the parentheses, and we talked about how if k was positive in that situation, it moved it up, and if k was negative, it moved it down. But the situation we're looking at right here shows us that if it's f of x plus k inside the parentheses, if k is positive, you move it left, and if k is negative, you move it right. And that's going to be the same even if I change this to a linear equation. Remember, a linear equation is just an equation that creates the graph of a straight line. Let's look at those. Let's say that this black line is my original graph. This is f of x equals 2x, so this is y equals 2x, up 2 over 1 for my graph here. This is y equals 2x, f of x equals 2x. What happens if that has k being a 2? It follows the exact same rules, and that's what's important to think about. All these transformations, it doesn't matter what type of graph you have. The transformation rules will apply the same across all types of the ones that we're going to be doing. It doesn't matter if it's linear or quadratic or whatever. It's going to shift the graph the same way, in the same way each time. So in this case, it took your original graph and it shifted it left 2 because it was f and then x plus 2 in the parentheses. It was f of x plus 2. That k value was 2. So remember, when it's plus a positive, it moves it left, and when it's plus a negative, it moves it right. So those are the notes I would make. You should look at making some sort of note in your notes, if you haven't done so already, if I can get this to load, that shows this exact thing that I'm putting on the screen. And this is a very abbreviated note. But this is what we learned last time. If it's f of x and then plus k outside the parentheses, if it was k was positive, it moved up. And if k was negative, it moved down. That was the transformation that occurred. And the one we just talked about was what if it's plus k inside the parentheses? Well, if k is positive, it moves left. If k is negative, it moves right. And you probably want to even put an example. So let me go ahead and put an example next to each one of these. So this is a positive example. This is a negative example. And I could say plus -2, or I could say -2, either way. And here's an example of a positive one here. And here's an example of a negative one here. So this was what should be in your notes so far for this week. Those are the two transformations we focused on so far. If you have any further questions, please email me or ask me during live time.